Well, one of the existential questions regarding track and field in the United States is how in the world do we get this sport to be more popular, or at least as popular as it was maybe a few more decades back in the 80s and 90s when even like decathletes were able to be household names. So, do you have any ideas as to the way the sport can be grown effectively in the United States?
Yeah, it's a tough question. Track, track and cross country are some of the highest participation sports as for youth. And then now a lot of my friends are getting into run clubs, getting into marathons and stuff. But there's certainly a disconnect between both of those groups and the pro scene. Um, Whereas, most kids that play high school football are also watching professional football, and hardly anyone plays pickup football when they're in their 20s and 30s. So uh, there's some sort of disconnect in track where the youth group is not really paying attention to the pros, and the post-collegiate people doing it for fun aren't really paying attention to the pros. So maybe there's some more creative ideas where uh, maybe at like a marathon major, we have Chicago, we have New York, we have Boston, maybe attach a track meet to that. After the marathon, maybe the day before, people don't want to be walking around and on their feet. So give them free tickets to a track meet and see who shows up, and maybe they catch the fever.
Could it be as simple as the fact that track and field, unfortunately, does not have the same amount of money poured into it or paid out to the athletes compared to those other sports? And therefore, there's just not that encouragement, really, the monetary encouragement to go into track compared to some other, even individual sports.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of chicken or the egg argument. Like, is track lacking because it doesn't have money, and therefore people don't pay attention to it as much, or is track lacking the money? Or I'm trying to figure out how to put this. Like, objectively, there's more people that watch the NFL than track, and
Yes.
therefore there's less money in track than the NFL. Now, if you threw a bunch of money at track, would more people pay attention? Probably, but it's a tough sell. Grand Slam kind of tried that last year, to mixed results. So it's not necessarily a money issue. I think it's more of a disconnect and like an exposure thing. So yeah, maybe more meets in the States. Like this summer, most of my races will be over in Europe because that's where the big money is. That's where the big crowds are. That's where the good competition is. Having more of those opportunities in the States, I think would bridge that gap a little bit better.
Speaking of Grand Slam track, recently their bankruptcy plan was approved. I know you were one of those athletes affected
Yeah.
by them not paying athletes on time or at all in some cases. Can you give us an update on your status between yourself and Grand Slam?
The update is that the latest package was approved. I believe athletes are to be paid about 85% of what we're owed. Vendors are to be paid a very small fraction of what they're owed. So they kind of got the short end of the stick on the deal. I haven't seen the money yet. I'm not sure exactly when it's supposed to be paid out, but the package was approved, and that's the latest I've heard.
So they didn't give you a timeline as far as when you're supposed to get paid your partial sum. It's not full, but
I'll have to go back and look at the paperwork. Every like week, I was getting like a 40-page stack of documents in the mail, and I'm not a lawyer. Like, I'm looking through the legalese and trying to understand it. There might be a date in there. I'm not positive though.
well, can you at least can you describe your Grand Slam track experience? Because while the ending was unfortunately sour for a lot of athletes and people around Grand Slam track, how was the experience, like the athlete treatment
Yeah.
that you received when you competed?
I had a lot of fun. The meets were cool. They were in new places I haven't raced before. It would have been nice to have more fans at some of the races, but you were treated really well. You were treated like a true professional, and that was a good thing, I think. Now, critics might say that that's why they ran out of money because they treated the athletes a little too well. But I had a good experience in it. This post Grand Slam bankruptcy and all that has kind of been a headache. My first ever bankruptcy that I've been a part of. So learning experience there, but in the moment I was having fun. It was a cool concept, good ideas. Execution was not 100%, and I think that's why it kind of crumbled. But to have a group invest in track, I was happy to see it, even though it failed.